I've seen and I witnessed and I took part in many talks that involve Syrian parties, but locally, not here, not somewhere, any international other place. The reality is that on the ground, people have different calculations. The army leaders, the militant leaders, they realize that after years of war, they're unable to deliver a victory and they're not losing. There's a military stalemate. So kind of that pushed them towards entering local negotiations. They also may have interest in having some access to resources in certain part of the country, so they enter negotiations. They are, surprisingly, influenced by pressure from civilians. Those people, I'm saying, they want peace. This pressure is translated or applied on them through a layer of civil society leaders or religious leaders or tribal leaders who take this pain, put it in front of those armed actors and say, we have to broker peace for them. Often also they're motivated to go into talks because the simple need that they need the infrastructure to run. Syria has been divided to many parts of different security controls, but the reality is that water pipes, electricity, the roads know nothing about these front lines. They cross across them all. And all parties have an interest in keeping water, electricity, and the roads running. So there's so many talks, tens of talks, that have started for just to keep the water or electricity running or to keep the trade going between the north and south of the country. There have been talks amongst the unlikely members. For example, even ISIS and the Syrian government, they have talks now that succeeded, and as a result of which you've got water and electricity provided to Aleppo. Some of these talks succeed. For example, Barza deal, as a result of which 30,000 families have been able to go back to Barza. If this deal did not succeed, those people would probably be now refugees trying to make their way to Europe. But sadly, most of these local talks and truces fail. Why? First of all, the bad faith. There is no political will to resolve this conflict, certainly. Second of all, is the regional interference, especially from countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey. I've been first-hand witness on how they spoiled many local peace deals. In Homs negotiations, the Iranians were sitting inside the room, inside the negotiation rooms, opposite a party that was supported by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. How do we expect this to work if the Saudis and the Iranians didn't settle their differences somewhere outside Syria? The second reason why they get spoiled is war economy. The Syrian formal economy have collapsed. There's a new war economy emerging. Everything is now dependent on the continuation of the war. So that developed a vested interest for the warring party to keep this war going and not to end it. And that war economy spoiled many peace deals. And there is something we can do about it. For example, working on lifting the sanctions, which harmed the Syrian economy and made many people depend on the war itself. The last reason is the fact that we are failing those local peacemakers. They're often the doctors, like now all doctors in Al-Ghouta, for example. They went out of their way after seeing so many people dying as a result of the shelling, and they asked for a humanitarian truce, and no one is responding. They have no international mediators, no international peacekeepers, no facilitators, nothing there to their help. We are failing them by every way. We took their cause, for example, to everywhere in the world. We went to the Security Council, we spoke to a special envoy to Syria, we spoke to OCHA, we spoke to members of Security Council, and we managed to deliver nothing. All what they were asking for is just a simple delivery of a humanitarian aid into the besieged Ghouta. And why? The answers we often get is that there is no will at the Security Council yet to resolve this conflict. The Russians and the Americans are not ready yet. And it's time we look them in the eye. We look all these members of the Security Council, including the Russians, including the Americans, who are supporting parties to a war, not supporting the solution to the war. They are all as guilty in what's happening in Syria.